With the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Good evening, everyone. We'll start our monthly school board meeting for the month of March. And I'll call the meeting to order. And our first order of business is the minutes. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes for February 19th executive session and also the regular meeting on February 19th?
I move that we accept both minutes.
Ben makes a motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Julie seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we're going to diverge a little bit from our regular agenda and we're going to do the preliminary determination hearing. So we have I have some things to read here and we'll have some participation from our friends. Okay, next item on the agenda is for the board to hold a preliminary hearing on the proposed project. If you are interested in speaking at the hearing, please make sure you have signed the sign-in sheet, which should include your name and address, which was right out here on the table. After a presentation by the administration and its advisors, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the project. At the hearing, we will ask that each person limit their comments to 3 minutes and that the topic be limited to the proposed project under consideration. The notice of this preliminary determination hearing was published as legally required. At this time, I will ask Kristen McClellan with Ice Miller to explain the purpose of this hearing.
Hi, good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Tonight, we're here because under Indiana law, anytime any school corporation wishes to issue bonds or enter into a lease for a project above a certain amount, it must first hold 2 public hearings. Tonight is the first hearing of the 2, and this hearing is to set forth maximums, which means we could never issue or do more than what we authorize at the next meeting, but we could always do less. So it gives you the flexibility. Again, tonight, there's no legal action. It's truly just to have a hearing and to hear from the public.
Thank you very much, Kristen. We'll now hear from Kristen McCarty, the Amarillo Heights School Corporation Business Manager, about the process of determining and communicating the project to the community and the need for the project. Kristen, take it away.
This is a map of the high school campus that shows some of the projects that have been talked about through the master plan process. The master plan process was started several years ago, and this recommendation or this plan would be starting what we're calling phase 3. Back in July of 2024, we did recommend to the board approval to continue with the design steps and the financing process for a new auxiliary gym, which would be this item right here, item 1 on this map, north side of the current high school, and then expanding on the north side of the pool at the high school for a new weight room addition. With that, we also included, if we move the weight room to the new addition, renovating the current weight room location and the fitness center and wrestling room upstairs. The board approved that recommendation, and we've been working with our construction team to work through construction documents and then also the financing team. The next couple pages just show a little bit different look at the first floor. So this would be the auxiliary gym, and then this would be the weight room addition. This is the floor right here. This shows the current weight room that would become the fitness center, which is currently located. This is the second floor map, which is currently located on the second floor above the current weight room on the first floor. And this here is outlining the renovation that could take place, expanding the current wrestling room. So this master plan project has evolved over the last several years. These two additions were added in the last couple years based on the need of additional gym space at the high school for extracurricular activities, but also space for during the school day. And the weight room addition would expand for the current APC program that is growing and very cramped in the current space. Also with this, it would allow for a larger wrestling space for the high school. I think this year is the first year for girls wrestling, officially girls wrestling. So that is kind of the need of the project based on just needing additional space. I think that goes into the total project cost. So we've been working through the design process, working with the construction team on what these two projects could look like. And now we're just at this first step in the financing piece.
Very good. Thank you, Kristen. Matt. Hear from you.
Good evening. Great to see you all again. So my role in the proceedings tonight is to look at this proposed project and look at the financial impact, or as we'll talk about here, how there won't be or not expected to be a financial impact. So first thing that we always look at is the school's current debt obligations. This is a color-coded graph of all of the school's bond issues, which are paid out of the debt service fund. Stacked on top of each other to show the annual payments. So in 2025, you can see the total payments from all the bonds is about $10 million. Because of the planning the school has done the last several years, you can see that the debt is going to start decreasing each and every year moving forward from 26 to 27 to 28. We've structured it that way so that when the school looks at additional projects such as this, they can do so without impacting the tax rate. School's tax rate, as we look at the next page, Kristen, currently is $1.04. The school has stated they would like to keep the tax rate there as it stands moving forward. This shows the projections based on the debt service fund and the operations fund tax rate moving forward. And as you can see, it mirrors the debt payments, goes down to 26, 27, again in 28. What that allows you to do is shown on the next page as we talk about the current project. This shows an illustration of what the payback could look like based on a $30 million project. One thing that I will note for the board, and I'll talk about this on the next slide, 2026, so only is a little bit of room for a payment in order to keep the tax rate there at $1.04, and I'll talk about that again on the next page, but I wanted to point that out. This shows the bonds being repaid over the course of 20 years. We've currently shown it as keeping the tax rate stable in both 26 and 27. But again, this is just the first draft. We'll obviously talk with the administration and school board leading up to this, if and when this happens, to make sure that we're structuring it to the school corporation's goals. Best part about this is the school retains flexibility moving forward. This does not take up the tax rate for a prolonged period of time. Have multiple school buildings, always have certain needs. So we want to make sure that we always look to the future to allow for additional projects, again, without increasing the tax rate, if at all possible. The last page, this shows the financial parameters. As Kristen McClellan mentioned, there's no resolution in front of you tonight, but there will be at the next meeting. This is all the financial information that you see in the resolution. I do like to go through it at this meeting, just so if there are any questions or clarification, we could talk through that now so you have time to think about it, discuss it before we're actually asking you for your vote. So looking at the parameters, the maximum par amount, I see we switched that around now. The maximum par amount should be $30 million. Estimated cost of issuance, capitalized interest, and underwriter's discount is listed at $1,250,000. This is the reason I point out how we only have a little bit of room for payments in 2026. Bondholders want to get paid, but if you can only have so much of a payment, but we need to have a higher payment for the actual project, we would take some funds in the form of capitalized interest from the project, pay it to the bondholder so that it doesn't hit your levy. If we don't do that, then all of a sudden your tax rate can go from $1.04, it might increase. So in order to keep it steady at the $1.04, we would take a little bit of money from the project, pay bondholders so that we're keeping your tax rate stable, which is what the board has discussed. This is a very conservative number. I expect this number to come down hopefully significantly by the time you issue the bonds. Couple different avenues to mitigate capitalized interest. I think probably the most likely, we've talked about this in the past, is I don't view you as issuing all of these bonds at one time. If you issue a smaller amount of bonds and then come back and do the rest at a later date, that interest cost is going to be a lot less for 2026. We won't need as much capitalized interest. So I'm showing worst case financial parameters. I would expect that number to come down significantly. As that number comes down, the available dollars for your project will go up. But again, I don't want to guarantee any of that now at this meeting, so we've shown it in a conservative manner. So 30 million with $1.25 million cost, that would leave estimated proceeds available. Again, if we switch those, $28,750,000. Estimated interest expense, we're showing $17,597,875. So line below that is the estimated maximum interest rate, showing 6%. Again, if you were issuing these bonds today, you're probably about 4%. We're not issuing them today. Rates could go up. We need to pay the worst case financial parameters here. So the interest expense should also come down significantly, assuming we can issue these bonds at a lower interest rate. So again, everything on this page is going to be the worst case. Maximum annual lease rental, that's the highest payment you can have in any 1 year. You can't go above that payment. That's listed at $5 million. The estimated maximum tax rate impact, I've told you this won't have an impact, but what you're going to see in the resolution is purely formulaic. It takes the $5 million maximum payment, divides it by your current assessed value. Doesn't look at the first two pictures I showed you about how some of your debt is coming on, you're replacing it. So that's purely formulaic. That shows an impact of 36.86 cents per $100 of assessed value. But the estimated net increase in the total tax rate, what taxpayers are going to see on their tax bill, is going to remain neutral at that $1.04, where the school corporation has been for many, many years. Two other pieces of additional information that we need to list by statute is school corporation's max annual payments as a percent of your assessed value as 0.7678%. And then the direct and overlapping debt, that is your debt plus other units' debt that the taxpayers would see as a percent of assessed value, that is at 8.42%. I know I went through that super fast. I always tell myself I need to talk slower, and I don't. What questions do you have that I can answer?
Probably a naive question, but what's the school corporation's max annual payments at a percentage of the net assessed value? What does that mean exactly? How does that equate to what we need to factor?
So it takes the payments that I would have shown on the first page and it just divides it by your current assessed value. I don't know honestly why it's in there. It's something that they put in statute that we need to disclose that information. I wouldn't view that as a metric that is super duper important, honestly. Yeah.
When was the last time bonds hit 6%?
So I've been doing this for about 15 years. We have sold a couple deals that would have been around 6%. Usually they're interesting circumstances. COVID for a short time, we saw rates spike. Certainly right after the Great Recession, we saw a rate spike. Very, very rarely. Something would need to happen to where we start approaching that number. Could it happen? Certainly could, which is why we list it in a conservative manner, but I certainly wouldn't expect us to get anywhere near that.
And the impact of what you provided us today for what's going on at the State House, which the saga continues.
Yeah. Great question. I guess that's the big caveat. So all of this is based on what we know today. What we know today going to change, certainly likely. As we've talked about here in the past, Hamilton Heights is uniquely situated, I think, to react to any major changes from the State House. I don't even want to speculate what might come out of there. I think we're gonna, still things that we haven't heard yet may come up. But again, that would be the big caveat, is they certainly could throw a curveball in all of this. If, which that happens, certainly have the conversation and see the impact and see what we want to do it forward from there. But yeah, I mean, that's a great point.
15.
24.
Yeah, tax it. Sorry.
Very good. Any other questions? From the board? Comments from either Kristen? Matt, if you named Kristen,
Easy.
Okay. All right, so we'll now open the public hearing. So remember, if you'd like to speak, please sign in on one of the sheets, which is located right out there. And Dr. Irwin, you checked that sheet, and we had no one. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, we asked that you state your name, but no one did sign up. And so there's no one on the sign up sheet. So would anyone else like to give any comments in this hearing? Okay. Well, thank you for all who participated. Thank you for the information very much. Thank you, Kristen, as well. We appreciate your time and interest in the project and the future of our community. Please note that this is just the first step in the legal process. No board action is legally required at this hearing. Rather, this hearing is solely to hear public comment. The board will continue to work with the administration and its professionals to look for efficiencies to conserve tax dollars while meeting our educational needs. The board will hold a second public hearing in this boardroom on March 26th at 6:30 p.m. So I think that's a week from today. So if you want to hear it again, do we actually, will we have a discussion again?
Yep, same
Okay.
hearing, and then there'll be resolutions to consider.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Matt. Anything else from anyone on that? With that, we'll move on to our, continue with our regular board meeting. So Dr. Irwin.
Okay, March is summer school month, so I've asked Julie and the high school to come talk a little bit briefly about their summer school plans. What the process that we go through is there's a list from the state that we analyze to see what the state will pay for summer school. Kristen and Karen work with the principals to make sure that what they want to do in summer school, we can get reimbursed for summer school. That has changed somewhat dramatically over the last couple of years and what their focus is on. So Julie, you want to talk a little bit about your elementary plan and what you get cooked up?
Absolutely. So this summer for the elementary, we're focused on high read remediation in second grade and third grade. So this year was the first year that the state mandated that second graders take the assessment. And so our second graders, this is just for us all to remember that it is a third grade assessment. So we really take this as a formative piece to let us know that we're on track, getting our kids ready for third grade and taking that assessment next year. So this year, what we're going to do for the kids that we just did the assessment, we're getting ready to send out that information to parents. But for the kids that in second grade that show at risk of passing IREAD the next year in third grade, we are going to do a virtual, or we'd like to do a virtual summer school where they are going to be on a program that we found to be very successful with our students. It's called Lexia. And so the month of June, rather than turning their iPads in going home for summer, they'll keep the iPads, do that assessment, have a program administrator that's going to check in with them and the parents to see how they're doing on that progress for the month of June. And then for our third graders that, because we do have some third graders that did not pass, we have, I'm going to back up a little bit because we have another iRead assessment in May. So just a few weeks ago, the state said that we could do 2 retests. So we've been busy as soon as we got our scores back with that remediation. So mid-May, we will retest again our students that did not pass. And then we will take from there
With the kids that do not pass, we'll do a continued remediation, which will be very small group, like 3 to 5 kids in a group is our hope. And then that will happen Monday through Thursday in the month of June. It will be hands-on. It'll be at the elementary school. And we'll do that small group instruction leading up to that final retest date, which is on June 19th.
How many kids did pass?
Okay, so for third grade, we had 39 third graders out of 180, and I have 1 fourth grader that did not. And so we are continuing to do that. There's various reasons and things that we look at. And then we are reviewing all of those students, and specifically to what the IRE assessment tells us that their deficit areas.
What do you think a realistic goal of the 39, it's actually 40 kids total?
Well,
Maybe.
my goal optimistically is that he's laughing because we've had this conversation. I want to get them all. I want to get them all of this at that finish line. So we do have, out of the 39 students that did not pass, I have 17 students out of that 39 that receive special education services. And there is a possibility of doing a good cause exemption here, because we do have the consideration of retention. The state of Indiana has said this year, third graders, if they do not pass, can be or will be retained. But that good cause exemption does allow us not to retain them. We continue giving them the plan that they need to be more successful. But they'll continue to take the IRE assessment through 6th grade. So I do know that out of 17 of those kiddos, I will probably have a good cause exemption area. So that puts me at about 22 students that I'm looking at, and very, very possible most of those kiddos will get across the finish line. So, and then also to back up to our 2nd graders, I did have the 49 2nd graders that showed at risk. The state, because we've been doing this for a long time, and so I had to fail the test score, and because normally we take the test in March, and then we take it again in June, and we are in that 400 score, or just a little lower, 300s, we can get the kids across the finish line. We've shown that year after year. And so the cut score that they're showing for 2nd grade, it's a pretty big range, and that's okay. But I feel pretty confident because we have many kids that show in that at risk, but I have no doubt that in a year of instruction, that they're going to pass it in 3rd grade.
So in the time between ones just failed May,
Yes.
is there anything that's happening for those kids that failed to
Yes.
fill in those gaps?
And so what we have done is that with our title services, which we normally service K1, 2, 3, 4. So what we have done is we've changed our title services for our focus to be on 2nd and 3rd grade, with the focus on 3rd grade, many 4th graders that have not passed. In addition to the classroom support they're getting from the classroom teacher.
So 2nd graders keep their iPads, and they do, for the month of June, their activities on the iPad. How rigorous is that?
Well, it's actually, it's a very good program. So it hits the science of reading, it hits the foundational skills, but it also hits that comprehension piece. But what it really does, because a lot of this is a test taking strategy. IRE is a fair test, but it's standard. You have to be able to read lengthy paragraphs and have that intention to task to go back and answer the question, look at the questions and answer them. And Lexia does that. And so it's really important that the intervention is on the iPad because they're taking the assessment on the iPad. So very, very beneficial. So we use Lexia with our 3rd and 4th graders as well. And it's proven to be very successful.
So it sounds like Alexia is a good program, but if it's virtual, I assume as a 2nd grader, how do you monitor their actually?
So
how is the teacher supervising or monitoring?
Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is on May 22nd, we're gonna bring parents in and we're gonna have the iPads there. And we're going to teach the parents Lexia, because that's the first thing, because we are asking, want them to do about 30 minutes 4 times a week. We're not pushing too hard because it is summer. We want them to have, and also remember those 49 kids. Part of this is developmental. Like they're taking this test. It's a 3rd grade test. So we don't want to, we just want it to be a good experience. So that's the first thing. We're going to work with parents on how to utilize Lexia. And then our program administrator is going to be able to see their progress. And then on Fridays, because we're not asking them to do the work on Fridays, but we're going to do a check-in to make sure that the parents and the students are feeling successful.
And it sounds like it's the first year we're doing it for 2nd grade, but
Yes.
are you concerned about parent engagement?
This is our first time. I do think, we're really gonna push out, want them to come to the parent night. That is a lot to add, it's a busy time of the year, but we're gonna hope if they do not come, we'll share all that information via email, all the things, steps that we want them to do, make the phone calls, have those connections. So I'm optimistic. I think it's gonna be a good thing.
And you said 49 2nd graders out of how
Yes.
many?
49 2nd graders, well, probably out of 170. It's the 170s. It's one of my larger classes. My 2nd grade, 3rd grade class are my 2 largest classes in the building.
If you've got 3 or 4 hours, you could talk to Julie about our reading scores that Julie compared to last year.
It was, we actually had just a few less that did not pass. So we're right in that same area, but this is a larger class. Like,
Right.
so this.
Percentage was,
Yes.
the answer I was penning for is the percentage.
Yes, it is higher.
I'll feed
It
you.
is higher.
Thank you. That's my advice for you to say.
Which I do too. Like that's that's our goal. And when we talk to our 3rd grade, I think it's just communicating because there's so much, there's testing anxiety for kids. And so I think we've done a really good job this year. We made some changes, you get into a routine of things. One of the things that we did this year was we small grouped all of 3rd grade. And it was really successful. So when I say that, normally, you have kids that might have an IEP plan that they might be one-on-one or in a small group. But this year I took every 3rd grade class and split them in half. And so took half the class and we had some fun with Mrs. Hyde, the gym, and did some different things. And so that it was a much smaller testing. And I would say that the 3rd grade teachers thought it was very successful.
So, especially with those 3rd graders, really all hands on deck.
Yes.
Going for the next 2 swings during school and then the swing during the summer. So Julie spent a lot of time thinking about this and what she's going to do. So thank you. At the high school, the middle school and the high school is kind of combined. When you want to talk briefly about what she picks up at the high school?
Yeah, so it looks really similar to previous years for us. We have a biology in-person class that will be 3 weeks. And this year we are adding an English. It's actually a film literature class, but it's aimed for anyone that needs an English credit, whether it's 9, 10, 11, or 12, it can count for that. So we can pull kind of from all over, but to give them that in-person option. And then we'll use the Indiana Online Academy for our first-time takers of Government Econ or English 12. Those are what we offer through them. And that's typically when seniors have a full schedule coming up. They want to intern, they want to co-op, they want to do something else to get 1, sometimes 2 of those credits in over the summer. And then for our remedial students or kids that have failed a class, we use Edmentum for those classes. And those are core classes that they are using that time to make that up, and then usually have 2 staff members present for 2 weeks to work through those things with those kids. So the only other thing that I think it's on Brett's stuff for the middle school is starting with this incoming freshman class, they're required to have that computer science class. He got, oh, man, maybe a half of his kids through that this year in 8th grade. And that group needs it to graduate. So we don't have that teacher in our building or anyone certified right now. Lucia Garber is for the middle school. And so she is going to run a summer program for any of those kids that did not get that class already. So we're hoping to hit at least a good portion of them. He was still working through if it's going to be kind of a hybrid of in-person and online with her. And I'm not sure his entire plans for that. And then we will work with him and bring Lucia over in the future to still make up any of those kids that did not get that course in. So, but we're hoping to catch a handful in the summer. He's really going to push that with his current 8th graders and get them signed up there before they even leave the end of the year.
Couple other significant differences between this year's version of summer school, especially in really the middle school and elementary school, is music and summer band is not covered anymore. So those programs have gone a little different direction. We will still continue to work with the state for band contest. We can kind of fix that problem with our last ECA schedule to make sure that that's supported, that the introduction to band stuff is probably going away. We talked to Mark and Billy about the need for that to go away and why that's going away. And you'll see that across the state. That's not just a problem. So these guys have done a nice job getting this ready. I appreciate Kristen and Karen making sure that everything that we say we're going to do gets approved. We don't get the money back until Kristen, that process is after everybody turns their stuff in.
Yeah,
So
sometime probably October or so after final costs are submitted. And then they look at all of the schools that submitted reimbursement for summer school.
in the old days, you'd get 120% of what you asked for back. You would not get more money than you asked for. But as more schools have gone to summer school, especially at the high school level, if people have tried to free up schedules for kids to do other cool stuff, good stuff. They haven't changed, it's, again, legislation. They haven't changed the amount allocated for summer school in several years. So the pot stayed the same, more people asking for it. So this probably will not be 100% funded, but everything that we've got on here is fine. So that's what you want to hear. Any other questions for these guys? If not, I recommend approval of our summer school program.
Right. Any other discussion? I would like to have a motion to accept the 2025 summer school in all three grade levels.
I will move that we accept this 2025 summer school program for all three grades, for all three schools.
School. Yep. Thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Already seconds it. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next on my list is Neola, and this is batch number 7. We're getting close to the end of our batches. CCHA or Neola, what we're switching from to CCHA. We're getting close to the end of that process. The typical process we go through is we get the new policies. Kristen sets up a meeting with all the administrators that are impacted by the policies. We sit down and go through and pick this. CCHA does a better job of just having, I would say, clear, concise policies rather than 14 different choices, choose A, B, jump around, that kind of stuff. We go through those policies and then we meet with the policy committee. This month's policy committee was a little bit distorted, but we really like the attorney to make sure that she blesses these before you get to them. So Gretchen and Kristen met yesterday and had a conversation. I think there was an A. Literally the word A. It was added. So, and the next steps in this process are.
Yeah, so we will, over spring break for the April board meeting potentially, or the May, we'll go through a cleanup phase of what Neola policies we have in place that CCHA didn't cover and determine whether we want those or not, or if we want to delete those and proceed with what we have so far. And then there will likely be a legislative update from CCHA sometime late spring, and then possibly sometime in the fall. So same process as Neola did in the past. There would always be at least 2 legislative updates. So we will still have policies to review But we are pretty much through all of the transition from Neola to CCHA policies.
Really appreciate Kristen's leadership. A lot of work on this. Gretchen's been deep into Gretchen and Kristen, between the two of them, have read every one of these words multiple times. And then each of us as policies impact us directly, we've gone through those. So it's been a really good process. I think we know board policy better now than we ever have. So
Do a lot of credit to Kristen.
I
She
would
does
do.
all the spearheading.
Everyone, there's been a lot of people on staff reading more policy than they probably want to. So
Yeah,
it was a team effort.
yes, definitely more than we want to, but more than we ever have. Sort of.
Aren't you going to love for?
Yeah, but you bailed out on me by days.
I made it for Tuesday. That's a long day.
I would recommend approval of board policy batch number 7.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve board policy batch number 7?
I'll make the motion.
Gretchen makes the motion. Is there a second? Arnie seconds it. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Airwood. You have additional comments?
The next, April is book adoption month. So we'll be back in April with book adoptions. Julie will have a book adoptions for science of reading. Middle school will have a, 5th grade will have a book adoption for reading only. And I think the high school is good for now, except for maybe some AP courses they're still working through. This is always a challenging time of the year. Like environmental science. So it's always a challenging time of the year because the high school is just now finalizing their schedules. And as they finalize their schedules, they're going, it's a challenge for staffing and course enrollment because we're trying to figure out who goes where and what's that. So these guys have had a kind of a busy year in general, but this last couple of months has been, they've done a lot of good work. So you can look forward to that for April.
So I'll be asking a question in April then about the enrollment in the business area. Or not the business area, but the engineering area.
I think we got that locked down. I think we'll be adding Mr. Post another period today next year. So the real question is, the following year, are you ready to move that to a full-time program? I know we're recording. So Doug, if you're out there, Douglas Owens, one of the best things he did was find a post for us, and having that dude teach that class has been great. We signed an agreement today with Purdue to add a pilot program that he's putting to the end of the after post spring break. He's meeting with those guys after spring break. So Dave Post has done a great job. We will add a section of that next year. So he'll be here 3 periods a day, 2 of them with kids. And then the following year, that should be back to a full-time position. So it's done. And it's an eclectic group too. In that class, you get kids going straight to college, kids that maybe are experiencing that kind of rigor for the first time, that like doing stuff with their hands and their heads and their hearts. So it's been good stuff.
Very good. Thank you very much. All right, Kristen.
The first item I have are the financials for the end of February. We ended with a fund balance of $18,111,456. There is a significant amount of construction funds in that balance, still from the current phase 2 project. We earned a rate of interest of 0.48 to 4.48%. That's declining, but pretty slowly. So we're still earning a significant amount of interest on our fund balance. The cash flow through February, the education and operation fund are in deficit positions, but as I mentioned at the last board meeting, January was a 3-pay month. That was an early 3-pay month for us in the calendar year. So we're still recovering from that. Also in the operation fund, we are always operating in a deficit position until we get property tax revenue that starts to come in mid-May and into June for the first half of the year. That's all I have for financials, unless there's any questions.
Very good.
The next item I have is the recommendation from the technology team for the 2025-26 5th grade student devices. So we didn't have that last month with the 9th grade MacBook devices. We now have that for the iPads for the incoming middle school next year. So this is the recommendation to purchase those devices.
Okay, can I have a motion to purchase the fifth grade student devices?
I move that we purchase the fifth grade student devices.
Thank you, Ben makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Julie seconds. Is there any discussion? about that? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Forgive my numbering, that is annoying to look at right now. The next item, as the facilities, Dory is here, to give an update on the project. We have some pictures.
Okay, so for phase two, we did a soft opening of the locker building on Monday. What that means to me is that we opened it up to all the spring coaches, spring sports. So the players for spring sports are now using the building. Today, Whitney and Mitch asked if we could show the teachers from the high school around. So today we did that. So it is now going to be busy out there. The pictures are somewhat boring this month because there is a lot of concrete and a lot of fencing that's been going up. This particular picture is a picture of the ag shop. They're starting to put in the cabinets there for the heating and cooling. You can probably scroll through these pretty fast. This shows the garage door facing west outside. Well, you're inside going, that would be the outside door to the ag shop. This is showing concrete fencing. You're at the northwest corner facing south. You're at the northwest corner facing over to baseball, so facing a little bit more west. Something that's exciting that Kurt wanted and Todd Jones wanted, all the field events for track now are completely fenced in. That did not have that prior to this. So that's showing fencing in of the high jump area. This is showing the kind of what like a traffic chute. So we have fencing that you see right in the beginning of the picture is fencing off the track and the football stadium. And then there's a concrete walkway for fans. And then there's another fence that fences off pole vault and high jump. We did not have that before. This is just the exact same thing, just inside the high jump. Same thing, basically. This is showing the fencing. So the blacktop to the right or the west, that's the high jump actually. So the other one was pole vault and long jump. So that's the high jump. So that keeps fans out of the field events during track.
I have a question there.
Mhm.
During football games, I haven't been to one for a little while, but there was kind of a mosh pit there.
Yep.
Now there's a fence there.
Yep.
Will those kids still be?
Well, we can lock the gates, so that would keep them out of there. I think the new mosh pit's gonna be the plaza area behind the stadium and north of concessions. That's where I think that'll all move to.
We will not be naming it that.
We won't.
I always thought it was paint pin, so I don't know if it's worse, but yeah.
Have two options.
I'm just gonna let fire.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We're having a good time out there.
This showing fencing. So this fencing is 6-foot poles. This is the exterior fence on the north side. That was at 4 feet, and that was a concern from a security standpoint. So now fencing around all of the athletic areas is now 6 feet, or will be at the end of the project. I don't believe it's all complete. So this is the area that might be where little ones like to play during a football game. This is behind the stadium, and you see the topsoil that's in. We have some green space back there, and then all that concrete, and you're facing the north end of the locker building, and to the left, that white box is a concession stand door. So that's where I think they'll end up playing, is that whole stretch right there. This is showing them moving north, pouring concrete. They have now, currently, that is all poured. We're there at to about that last light pole, continue to pour north. That is facing north, so that's the high jump blacktop again, that is pretty much all put concrete now. That's a good question for Harrison, because I don't know that.
What was the question?
How
thick
thick
is
is
the
the
concrete?
concrete?
Is it
So the
sidewalk concrete or is it?
4 inch, and then the road is, I think, 6 to 8 inches. It's meant for heavy duty traffic. Yeah. Big.
So can you drive, will you be able to drive on that 4 inch? Can you drive over there?
I mean, gators and ATVs, and you could probably take a vehicle on it periodically, but I wouldn't take anything too heavy on it. I wouldn't take lifts on it or anything. It'll break it more than likely.
We're trying to discourage people from driving back there because everyone is so used to driving back there that we're trying to change that. This is pedestrian only, except for emergency vehicles. That is showing baseball. So that's the baseball press box. And you see the concrete, the darker concrete right there is showing that was just poured when this picture was taken. That is all white now. And then you see the topsoil going in. That's where it will be grass. Another shot of the topsoil grass area. That just south of that topsoil, that's where they had just poured concrete. That's why it's different color. Another picture of it. Person taking the pictures are standing on the football press box. So that's kind of nice. Gives you a good viewpoint. This is on the south end looking north. So you can start to see where that plaza area is going to be. That's looking at the plaza area, and that area kind of between those light posts and just south of the green space. That's where we'll have picnic tables and umbrellas. So that's where people will be able to sit and eat from the sessions. And that white thing that's at the bottom right of the screen is the awning that it got put on top of the building. Yeah, right there. So you see the beginning of it. That is all now on. And that runs the stretch of the north end of the building. And that's standing on the south side locker room, looking south outside the ticket booth. That is showing the netting system that went up for softball. It looks really good. And that is looking northeast at the locker building from softball. And that is if you're standing at the southeast corner of tennis. This is where the ambulance will be able to drive in. The concrete still needs to be finished right there at the edge of the road, but that is now all concrete where tennis is. That's it. So that's for phase 2. Any questions about phase 2? Should remind you that the softball press box is staying for this season, and it will be torn down after the season, and a new one will be put up, and it will be identical to baseball. Then our SAC project, we are geared up and ready to go, and we are just waiting for permits to happen. So we were planning to start this coming Monday, and we don't have the permit back from the county yet, so that will push off to the following week, the following Monday.
It's like there's some fence up.
Yeah, they've started to mobilize, but they can't actually do any big major work until we have the permit. Any questions?
You said something about some fencing that went down?
Oh, at the north, you're talking about existing fencing?
Yes.
Yeah.
You said,
Just want me to explain it or?
yeah,
Okay, so the north entrance, ticket entrance, so the northeast corner of the football field where the older now ticket booth was, there's ornamental fencing there, and through the past couple windstorms, it has blown over. It does not look great right now, but we are working on repairing that. We're working on getting collar poles so they can be sunk into concrete deeper. So that all happened during Project Vision. So if you go by there right now, it does not look great. So we're repairing that.
I just wanted the others here.
Yeah.
In case they drove by.
I guess I didn't mention anything about ag and admin. Those are still moving along. Our in-house team have been moving ag and construction because we are gearing up. They are going to be inside working all through spring break, construction is. So we've been moving stuff out. There's trailers sitting right outside of ag right now. That actually is holding a lot of construction items that they didn't need through the rest of the year. And today we moved all of ag up into the loft, which used to be construction. So that's doing it to get ready to, we're tearing down walls, from the welding bays are going down over spring break, as well as they're starting to put in the air control system into the new construction lab. So that's happening as well. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tori.
Last item I have are the accounts payable and payroll claims.
Arnie, can I have a motion?
I move, we pay the bills.
All right, Arnie makes a motion to do payroll claims. Is there a second?
Gretchen.
Yeah, Gretchen seconds. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. So just to make everyone aware, there is a significant storm coming, but it looks like it's 50 minutes away, so 5 whole minutes. So we'll all be home and safe before that hits. So I heard some alarms going off.
It's coming this way.
You'll be fine.
Famous last word, right?
Okay, moving to new business, we have the personnel report and also some requests. So we have a very significant personnel piece tonight because we have Mitch Street nominated for vice principal. So Landry, do you guys have anything to say? I'd like to say on behalf of your dad. I heard you had Layla, I heard you had a 5-minute speech, so.
Oh, no.
No? Oh, then Landry has the 5-minute. talk.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys have anything good to say about your dad?
Nope.
Sometimes it's. Okay, well, I'll give you a chance, you guys, so.
Well, we're glad you came.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we get a Go Huskies out of you?
Go Huskies.
All right, sounds great. Okay, can I have a motion to accept the personnel report? And can we merge that in with the request as well? Would that be okay?
I move that we accept the personnel report and also the requests.
Very good. Julie makes the motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
Ben seconds it. Is there any discussion? Other than the fun discussion we've already had? Okay, hearing none, we'll make a motion and we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Very good. Congratulations, Mitch. Mitch, what would you like to say?
Well, I'll just say I've been here for 17 years, been a long time, and really had not a strong desire to switch. I would have been very content working with Jared and Whitney, and obviously circumstances have changed, and feel really happy to be working with her and keeping things going and see what the future holds, and really excited for that too. So thank you.
We're very happy to have you on board. Thank you very much for your dedication over 17 years. Started when you were 7.
Yes. Youngest teacher ever.
Great. Thank you. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Ben makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Arnie seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you guys very much. Thanks, Layla. Thanks, Landry, for putting up with it.